Hello and welcome to Women in Retail Talks. I'm Ashley Chiradio, Senior Content Strategist at the Women in Retail Leadership Circle. And today I'm joined by Vanessa Cartwright, Chief Client Success Officer of Astound Commerce, the world's largest independent digital commerce agency, and one of her clients, Marie Thomas, VP of Applications and Integration Technology, Direct-to-Consumer Solutions at TOMS, a company whose purpose is to sell shoes in order to improve lives and improve communities across the globe. Today, we're going to be talking about Vanessa and Marie's career journeys, their thoughts on re-commerce, strategies they've used to motivate their teams during the COVID-19 crisis, and much more. Marie and Vanessa, thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting us.
So, Vanessa, maybe you want to go first and start by telling us a little bit about your career journey.
Yes, absolutely. So I began my career actually in London in the UK. I have a not extremely useful degree in English and Russian studies. And so I began working in publishing and moved fairly quickly into the world of database and direct marketing. And then moved to Vancouver in Canada, where I kind of continued that journey, but made the move pretty quickly into the world of all things digital. I moved to a digital agency called Blast Radius while I was in Vancouver, and moved with that company to New York about 12 years ago now, where I've been ever since working in the world of digital and e-commerce specifically. And I've been with Astound Commerce now for about 8 years.
Great. And Marie, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Thank you for having us. So while my focus, as you mentioned today, VP of Technologies and Applications with TOMS, my early days of undergraduate degree in accounting didn't exactly start out too technical. Well, I took COBOL and Fortran back then. After my degree, I strayed a bit from technology and I joined the Peace Corps, where I taught accounting and typing for about 2.5 years in Western Samoa. And in returning to the States, realized I kind of need to catch up pretty quickly because the change interval on technology had really shortened, and email and internet and .com boom was really in full swing at that point. So my first job back in the States was working in an accounting department at a hospital. Hospital was kind of a familiar environment because of my college jobs as a pharmacy tech. But really what working in the accounting department did is allowed me then to progress into working on process redesign. For example, we redesigned patient registration process, which helped reduce the time and steps involved. Key success factors being patient satisfaction and cost reduction. With projects like that, it's very technology supported, data driven. And I really think that's what propelled me and my interests in the direction of technology overall. I realized how I love to build things and have a passion for building efficient, scalable technical solutions that deliver business value. So from healthcare industry, I moved to consumer packaged goods for about 17 years and progressed through roles involving solution design, system implementations, and then maintaining system landscapes and really leading teams through those aspects. Somewhere along the way, I got my executive MBA from Loyola Marymount University and then moved into fashion footwear industry as I've been with TOMS now for about 6 years, continuing on a similar path, but really evolving the technology focus to cloud-based SaaS solutions.
Great. So, Vanessa, can you explain a little bit about your role at Astound Commerce and how your company helps retailers?
Yes, absolutely. So Astound Commerce is a digital commerce services provider. We provide strategy, technology, demand and experience services and solutions to our clients. And our clients are really many of the world's largest brands and retailers, from companies like L'Oreal through many of the VF brands, of course, including TOMS. And we work with our clients to understand, their business goals, their desired outcomes. We think about the maturity of their digital commerce capabilities, everything from the teams that they have, the existing technologies that they have in place, the processes that they use, as well as what the customer experience is like when you think through the kind of consumer's lens, at all the different, we call them pivotal moments of their journey with a brand. So we put all that together and work with our clients to develop, roadmaps, understanding, what they need to prioritize on in terms of, what to do next, where to invest, how to make the most from that investment. And then, of course, we work with our clients to execute against those plans, developing everything from replatforming their websites, redesigning them, thinking about the mobile experience, the in-store experience. And we have learning plans in place so that we can help evaluate and then optimize as we move forward.
Great. And so, Marie, how has TOMS had to pivot due to the COVID-19 crisis, especially with the increase of online shopping? I'd love to hear about that.
Yes. So TOMS has been around, just a little context first TOMS has been around for about 15 years. And really, as you highlighted at the beginning of our interview, from inception, our mission has been to improve lives through doing business. We are a for-profit company, but we believe in our competitive edge, which is to give to those in need. We have a talented team within TOMS who focuses on finding those organizations who do good and do it well and helping others. We call them our giving partners. And over these 15 years, we've established a strong network of partners we support. So TOMS doesn't just donate a few dollars here and there. We're deliberate, authentic, and purposeful in our giving and our mission to help others through doing business. It's an integral part of our company culture and employees and core to what we do. But that said, we recognize that we really have to lead with great products. And so, we understand that offering cool, trendy, quality products to delight our consumers is really at the forefront of what we do. And footwear is our largest category, but we also sell eyewear and are starting to expand more into apparel. TOMS sells through both B2B and B2C sales channels globally. And our B2B channel, we had established good relationships with many national accounts. We're also in smaller chains as well as independents. And our e-com sites globally have been in place for about 10 years. And we, I'd say, have a fairly evolved and sophisticated e-com channel in place today. So when COVID hit, like other retailers, we did see an immediate impact to our B2B channel. And due to many of our customers having to close their stores during lockdown and operate even to this moment at lower capacities. So really, our B2B channel took a hit. But we did see an increase in our e-com. I'd say really TOMS didn't have to dramatically pivot to see the success. I'd say we really just needed to do more of what we were doing and leverage that and focus on what we could refresh. So a couple things we did on the e-com front as we began to profile more of really what our roots made us successful in, which was a flagship stylish shoe called our Abrogata. It's a comfy footwear style that comes in fun, kitschy prints, as well as some conservative prints, but it's a great crossover footwear to being worn in the home as slippers. So we emphasized to profile that on the site. We even pulled up some of our comfy slippers, even though we were in spring, to profile those on the site. But similar to other retailers, we had to be on promotion a lot more than we would normally be in order to remain competitive. We also sought to be empathetic to our consumers. We made sure imagery on the site showed people in more home-like settings and really limiting the number of models in those images, being sensitive to where consumers were at. Everybody's at home, so wasn't very sensitive to show people in large groups or portraying them at parties. And then lastly, I'd say we look to refresh our giving model. We used to call it 1-for-1, and now evolving that to being more of a donating 1/3 of our profits. So formally stating that for every dollar, every $3 of profit, we donate $1. And this allows us to continue to donate shoes to children in need, as well as restoring eyesight, but also to give to organizations like the COVID-19 Global Giving Fund directly.
That's really interesting. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about re-commerce. So Vanessa, you're really passionate about sustainability in retail. Can you tell us a little bit about the impact of corporate social responsibility and maybe how AI can help that?
Yes. And you're right, I do care a great deal about it. I think many retailers and brands, unfortunately have not had the best track record in terms of sustainability. The rise of fast fashion, et cetera, means that there's been a great deal of waste produced by the industry as a whole, and with a supply chain that kind of takes, raw product from one location, moves it to another for manufacturing, to yet another for warehousing, and then sort of manages delivery through that last mile. There's a lot of different steps and a lot of different levels of energy usage and consumption that happen through all of that. And so I certainly believe it's the right thing to do for brands and retailers to think about their impact on on our world, and to do what they can to address that. I also, of course, we see that being not just the right thing to do, but it is driven absolutely by the consumer demand for that. I think Marie spoke really well about what TOMS does in terms of its corporate social responsibility. It was one of the absolute pioneers. It's been emulated many times by others in terms of really taking a very purpose-driven approach to their business. And I think both of those things are important, because our consumers are very much demanding both that they're making buying decisions and spending their money with companies that do give back to the world in the way that TOMS does, and also that are really proving that they're addressing, both in terms of the product itself as well as all of the different aspects of their supply chain, that they're really addressing some of those environmental issues. And in terms of AI, I think that is one element. I think that technology is a great enabler in order to make both product manufacturing more efficient in terms of more accuracy and forecasting, for example, around demand, about changing production to being very much kind of an on-demand based production, as opposed to simply determining your numbers at the beginning of a season and then needing to deal with the waste that might produce, but also finding opportunities for efficiency at all the different points in the supply chain. So I think those are many of the things I'm interested in. I also believe there's some really, you talked at the beginning about re-commerce, and that's really about moving to thinking about the business model a little differently, and believing that as many brands have done great things, both in terms of their own product and enabling other product to not simply be purchased, used, and then discarded, to kind of fill the ever-growing amount of waste that we have as a planet. But the concept of re-commerce, allowing people to resell, to recycle the product that is being produced, I think is tremendous. I think the North Face have done a great job. I think the partnership between Walmart and ThredUp has been particularly interesting, allowing ThredUp, which is lets consumers and individuals through a marketplace business model resell their clothes, which I think is a really fascinating concept. To other brands, like one I'm particularly interested in is the Pros Closet, which is in sort of cycling business, which is very innovative business, allowing people to resell, all of their kind of high-end cycles and cycling equipment. So there's a lot that people can do, all the way from thinking about the way their product is manufactured, through the supply chain, to the actual business model itself, that I think is, really driven by the doing right, as well as the consumer demand.
So back to Marie, TOMS recently revamped their website. Can you talk a little bit about that process and maybe point out what's different from the consumer's perspective?
Sure, it's a exciting project, so would love to talk more about that. With TOMS being a mid-sized company, having scalable, solid, efficient technologies to leverage is really key. And especially in an e-commerce realm where it's, it could be an unpredictable environment. So, we've had e-com in place for about 10 years, and we're previously on Oracle ATG, an on-premise application, and it's expensive and heavy, and it was aging. So we recognized the need to be more forward-thinking and planning ahead, and decided to migrate to Salesforce Commerce Cloud. So we launched with a new platform and 3 go lives across Canada, US, and our European markets, completing that in early September. From a consumer's perspective, we really didn't deliberately make significant changes to the look and feel of the website. We chose a more conservative approach, limiting the number of variables that would change there at once in order to minimize any potential loss of sales, since changing the platform was already deemed a significant and complex change. So just prior to starting the replatforming project, we had finished redesigning our one-page checkout. So this was a design we also carried over into the new site. I'd say the biggest improvement we've seen with the site overall is the speed. Our site performs now about 40% faster on our Salesforce platform. We did add a few bells and whistles for consumers. First, I'd say is a more mobile responsive design to the site. Store locator using Google Maps that supports a one-tap mobile enablement for Google Maps. We added a product quick view and a product list page, and that enables consumer, if they're a speedy shopper, add to bag quicker. A lazy load of product images on a product list page. And lastly, which is a good segue to I think where our future is going to take us on the e-com realm, is we've incorporated some AI, artificial intelligence there, in order to drive better product recommendations based on consumers' browsing patterns. I'd say the key success factors with this project in my mind was twofold. First, Tom's team is an incredibly talented group of people. And we sought to have a strong partner that was equally as talented. About 18 months ago, we selected Astound Commerce as our key implementation partner for that project. And really over the last year and a half, TOMS and Astound have forged a strong partnership. We created a collaborative project team who worked closely together to deliver this solution with strong expertise and quality technical delivery. And we were really able to deliver this implementation on time, on budget, with a high degree of quality. We didn't have any business disruption. So from a TOMS perspective, it was the largest project we had as our strategic initiative growth drivers for e-com over the last year.
And so I was also wondering if you had any strategies that you used to motivate your team during the COVID-19 crisis, or even having to remotivate them since it's been such a long haul.
Right. I'd say, while my team balances both maintaining the overall TOMS technology landscape, we also, as you can see, work heavily on projects to enhance TOMS business capabilities. So when COVID crisis hit, the majority of my team, we were already 4 months into that year-long e-commerce replatforming project. So we really had already hit our stride working with the Astound team in a remote model where project team members were already based in multiple countries across the globe and accustomed to navigating time zones. So when we shifted abruptly for ourselves working from our homes, we actually felt our effectiveness increased as a result of more time to focus on priorities. With the excitement of the implementation now, though, tapering down since we went live back in September, what's exciting is, always looking ahead. And looking ahead, we've partnered again with Astound for some thought leadership and guidance on bringing some new creative brand messaging to life on the website. So I'm really excited to announce that as of Q1 in 21, we will have some refreshed creative colors and messaging across the website. We've done a lot of work over the last 6 months to evolve that brand messaging and are looking forward to a Q1 launch of those touch points digitally on the website. So I think that's also helped the team enjoys working on projects that we know are value add and will delight the consumer.
Great. And so I thought we could end talking about mentorship. So at Women in Retail, we really value mentorship. Do either of you have mentors or mentees, and how have they impacted your career path? Maybe Vanessa, you want to go first?
Yeah, I haven't got a formal mentor, but I have been extremely fortunate in throughout all of my career to have worked with and for some really remarkable and generally female leaders. And I think in the first instance, what that kind of gave to me, and that's been true since my very first job back in publishing, is that it never even occurred to me that as a woman you couldn't be as successful as you would want to be in business, because those were the examples that I had. So, it just didn't really cross my mind that there were any real barriers to that. So, the first agency I worked for in London, I had a female managing director, as well as a very senior leadership team made up of many women, and worked for a great woman who, continues to be a great friend of mine to this day. When I moved to Canada, the founder of the agency that I worked for there was also a wonderful woman. Her name was Virginia Green. I probably credit her with many of the kind of leadership skills that I hope that I have learned and managed to emulate in the roles that I've had subsequently. She was a remarkable woman who brought and would talk about the need to bring grace and joy, not just, the kind of more typical business skills, into how she had founded and then led a very successful agency that subsequently was bought by one of the hugest kind of advertising agency networks. So I feel very fortunate to have had, a good number of years working with her, and she gave me a lot of really fantastic opportunities. So, from that perspective, I think I learned a great deal in terms of just general kind of leadership and how to marry sort of empathy, compassion, along with, intelligence and decisiveness and, striving for success as well. But I think some of those softer skills are not always taken into account. And I have tried to kind of pay that forward somewhat. I've mentored, some people, at different points in my career as well, which has been, really rewarding and, generally also super interesting, because you learn a great deal. I mentored a woman who was working at Bonobos at the time, and who subsequently moved, but I learned a lot about their business model. I hope she learned something from me, but that was a great experience. And, now I feel like it's a very informal network of people that I have that I learn from. I've got a lot of friends that, I feel very fortunate to have, who've been, moved into the friend group from being clients at different points in my career, or sometimes colleagues, and a lot of them in the digital and the e-commerce space. And so, they're my sort of informal group that I can call up and, review ideas and talk about, different plans that we might have at Astound, and, see how they react to them and what they're experiencing in the marketplace. And, that's a network that these days I find very valuable.
And how about you, Marie? Any mentors or mentees in your career?
Yes, similar as Vanessa mentioned, I'd say it wouldn't be just one, it would be many. And especially as career growth and being a female, and also being a mom, how to balance those phases in life and still having, a successful career and staying engaged. I think that getting feedback and alternative perspectives is a gift. And throughout my career, I have sought out mentors as guides and sounding boards, and having mentors from multiple areas and disciplines across the organization, as well as from outside the organization, really helpful. hearing from a trusted colleague who understands the political environment maybe of the company I'm with and the company's key priorities provides sometimes the right context for some feedback. Also find having one or two people within the company to provide input many times has allowed me to alter perhaps an approach I'm thinking of taking to achieve a desirable outcome. And seeking the advice from others outside the organization has many times been instrumental in helping me pursue career growth. And I've sought to take on more responsibilities, figuring out how to frame up that message of ask and putting my hand up to say, recommend how we could do things differently, which gave me opportunities. I think that's been helpful as well, and having a mentor as a sounding board. I'd say not only though as mentors for myself, but as Vanessa mentioned, paying it back forward as well, I think is really important. And also selfishly, we get a lot out of it in partnering in that way and being a mentor and coach myself. Currently, I work with an MBA program at Loyola, and I'm a coach for some of the executive students in the program to help them through either projects or navigating some of the workload they have today and balancing their career and home life along with school. I like to think of our career paths as it's a continuous journey. And continuing to further our journey, I'm energized by having opportunities to engage with talented and smart individuals and really find learning opportunities through both being mentored as well as being able to mentor others.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Women in Retail Talks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This was a great conversation and really thought-provoking questions you posed for us.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check our podcast channel page at womeninretail.com for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.